Today we have Mother Earth by Within Temptation, which is a band that I had never heard before, or at least I don't think I have. I don't remember. Anyway, I know that this is like a. I mean, I would describe this actually. It's like sort of metal, but it's like folklore, I guess. You know, it's sort of like heavy folklore, art folklore. Like, what the fuck would we describe it? I don't know. Like, it's very like, fucking nature, like bagpipes, flutes, elves type deal, like that sort of, sound. I don't know how to describe this, but yeah, it's essentially that sort of sound. And I just listened to this is a pretty old album. I think this is from like 2000, like literally the year 2000. So it's been a while, and I think that it shows its age. I think that a lot of the music, especially when it came to the genre, I think it has evolved over time, at least from what I've heard. I don't listen to this type of music too much, but from what I've heard, and honestly, it's very bold because a lot of it sounds like metal, sure, but it's also like there's quite a few, I guess, quote-unquote ballads here. It's just like pianos and singing, and that's pretty much it, right? Like the third song, for example, is outright a ballad. Technically, it's a ballad that sort of evolves into then, having guitars and stuff like that. So it's not completely like a ballad type thing. It's not completely acoustic type thing. Which leads me to the singer. The singer is really good. The singer does a phenomenal job, and the singer has a very powerful voice, which is why I think that oftentimes some songs, and especially some instruments in the songs, actually tend to be a bit more laid back or a bit more in the background rather than trying to outshine the singer. They just let the singer shine because the singer shines really bright. Like the voice is amazing. It's really powerful as well, because it's not just that the singing is good, is that above everything it's really powerful. It's really powerful singing, and honestly, it's one of the highlights of the album. I would say it's incredibly good, and that's the thing. Like for a metal album, it's a very like soft metal album, because the biggest focus is on the I guess quote unquote folklore part of things. So it's like very soft. I would say that if you want to get into metal, this album and this type of music is actually really good because they don't focus so much on the metal aspect. They focus far more on the aspect of just being the folklore and being like, using the instruments to sort of have a specific sound rather than having a specific sound because of the instruments, if that makes sense. So yeah, I actually did like a lot of I didn't pay too much attention to the lyrics because I never do, but it did feel like this story, at least the points that I did. I liked the story that was sort of being told in the album. It's like you're hearing sort of a story, like you're hearing a epic tale. I think that's what I would describe it as. You're just hearing a tale of, rather than someone just telling that tale to you, they're singing that tale to you. That's what it feels like. It doesn't feel like a musical, don't get me wrong. Like, it's not a musical, it's specifically just music telling a story. It's a story through music more than it being a musical, I guess. Which I know that's kind of what a musical is, but it feels very like epic. It feels very, you're going on an adventure and you're in a place, and there's all of these things that sort of give you that description of that place, and sort of you going through that place, and it feels very personal, I would say. I guess that's the thing I would describe it as. And it's also very, very funny to me that this song has a single interlude, because the songs are mostly like 4 or 5 minutes. There's a couple there's a song that's like 8 minutes or whatever, but most of the songs are pretty consistent. The song on the album is pretty consistent, but there is one song, and that's what I find really funny, which is an interlude song. It's a minute long and it's called Intro. The song actually plays on the 8th position of the album, so it's far from being the fucking introduction of the album, and even then it doesn't feel like it's the introduction for the next song of the album either. So I find it really funny. It didn't have any lyrics or anything like that. It was just very like menacing. It was very ominous, which is actually very different from the rest of the album. Like the rest of the album is again like more folklore, more like Midlands type thing, I guess, fucking flutes and shit, right? But then you just sort of have this intro which is like very ominous, like organs going on and stuff like that, and I don't understand why this song exists, like why this interlude exists, nor do I understand why it actually stands in the album like this. It's just very weird. It's a bit confusing, but I guess it's there, you know. Also, it was really hard for me to find this album, or at least an album that was actually this album, because there's been several releases of this album, and the one on YouTube has not only the 10 releases of the album, of the original album, it has 3 different singles after that, because the subsequent releases of the album, especially in different zones and in different years, have extra singles in them, which sometimes albums do. And then the entire album was live as well. So you had the normal album, you had the 3 singles, and then you had every single song live on YouTube, which usually doesn't happen. Usually YouTube just provides you the normal album, the songs like in a playlist of the normal album, because I use YouTube Music, I don't use Spotify or anything like that. So it was definitely an interesting experience trying to go through Wikipedia and stuff like that to try and understand, oh, you know, like, let me actually see, does this song belong on the album? Does this song not belong on the album? What's even going on here? So yeah, that was all very interesting. Anyway, quite liked it, honestly. You know, obviously it does show its age quite a lot. You can see that it's more on the older side of things, for sure, but despite that, I do think that it is a pretty cool thing. I think that, I mean, I don't know much about the genre or anything like that, but I could see this album being like one of the first of its kind type thing. So, you know, it was definitely a very interesting experience. I would give it like a, you know, like a 6 out of 10 maybe. You know, it wasn't my favorite for sure, and it wasn't like the best thing ever. Again, it shows its age quite a lot, which is probably the biggest downside of it. There's still some nice songs and whatnot, and I think that this is a good foundation of what I would hope the band to do next, at least from the more, I guess, modern era of these type of songs that I've heard, especially with a female lead, because I didn't mention that it's a female lead, which is not very common in metal bands. Nowadays it's way more common, but back then it was pretty much unheard of. So especially when it came to combining metal music and, you know, harsh guitars with just a very clean, powerful vocal from a female lead. So, you know, I understand that nowadays it's way more common. Back then it wasn't as common, but yeah, honestly, it's a 6 out of 10. You know, I think that they will improve, and I think that from what I've heard from this type of genre, there's definitely been a lot of improvements ever since then, but this is a very good foundation, and it's pretty cool that this album is from 2000, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, that's it for today.